I made a film in 1998 called Brother Tide. It was a student feature I made when I was 20 years old. And I'm still waiting for distributors to salivate over that one. After I made that film, no one wanted to talk to me, and I kind of spent 12 years in a cinematic purgatory waiting for someone else to give me a shot to make a movie. So, after Blue Valentine had that moderate level of success, I was able to do this film, and it's nice when people want to see the film, and the reception at Toronto was kind of unexpected for me, because the film was so difficult to make, and I think I wrapped myself up in kind of the agony of the struggle of making the film for so long. But it was nice to show it in front of that crowd and have the response that we did. I started writing the movie back in 2007 because my wife was pregnant with our second son, and I was thinking a lot about becoming a father again. And I was thinking a lot about all of that responsibility that came with being a father. And I was thinking about this fire that I had felt inside of me forever, and this fire that had helped me do a lot of things in my life. But it had also been a very destructive force in my life. And I was thinking about the fire that was in my father and in my grandfather and in his father. And I was just thinking about how many generations back that feeling went, that force, that fire went. And then I was thinking about this little baby that was going to come out into the world and be clean and be fresh. And I really wanted him, my son, to be free of the fire. I didn't want him to have that fire in him. I wanted him to carve his own path. And so I started thinking a lot about legacy and thinking about the choices that I was making and how those were going to get passed on to the next generations, and just the weight of those choices and consequence. And at the same time I was reading Jack London books and thinking a lot about just legacy and the calling back of ancestors. And that's so it's an extremely personal movie. It couldn't be more personal. That said, I don't ride a motorcycle or rob banks, and I'm not a police officer. The three films I've made have all been about family. Brother Tide was about brothers, Blue Valentine's about husbands and wives, and The Place Beyond the Pines is about fathers and sons. And I think families to me are there's so many secrets in a family, and there's a great intimacy in a family. You really get to know people in a family, who they really truly are. And I feel like the cinema is the same. I feel like the cinema is a place for secrets and for intimacy. And I think that's why I like to make films about that. But going all the way back to my childhood, I was always trying to, I was making tape recordings of my family arguments and stuff at home, and taking pictures of, my brother in his underwear with tears streaming down his face, screaming at my mother, and having her in her nightgown with absolutely frozen, and wondering why this little 4-year-old boy was taking a picture of that moment. I just think I don't know, I'm just interested in family. Before I was a filmmaker, I was an audience member, and still to this day I'm an audience member before I'm a director or a writer. I love movies, and as a writer and a director, I think about, and I think as an audience member, I think about what I want to see, and I think about myself sitting in a movie theater and looking at that screen, and I'm just trying to make the movies that I want to look at, that I want to watch. And I don't think I'm that different. I don't think I'm unique or special, or my taste is a certain one. I think I'm very average in what I like and what and what I want to see. And I like being challenged as an audience member, and I like watching movies that are experiences. Where I can actually leave the theater and feel like I can take that movie into my life. I love movies. I love living with movies that I've seen. Yeah, I mean, actors, I would be, as a filmmaker, you're nothing without, the actors. And, I'm a filmmaker because I love collaboration. If I didn't love collaboration, I would be a painter, and I could just do everything myself. I love I love that about film, that it's a collective of artists that get together to do something greater than themselves. It's not about ego. It's not about self. It's about this thing that you're trying to tell in these and so I work individually with every actor, and I consider every actor to be my co-writer, you know, and I really, you know, on the page, I feel like this, you can only write to a certain point, and then those characters have to live and breathe, and so I give those characters to my actors, and it's always, I always feel like it's better if they, you know, it's always better if ideas come from them, you know, if you know, actors aren't parrots. They don't do well repeating lines. Do you know what I mean? It's to me, it's better if they're living, you know, and that's what I want to see. And it was because maybe 12 years I spent, you know, between my first film and Blue Valentine directing documentaries, and I really learned while making documentaries that I learned how that, you know, in an interview, for instance, someone I was interviewing wouldn't necessarily answer the question the way I thought they would, and so it really shook my how I expected, my level of expectation as a filmmaker. And also I got trained in capturing moments as they would happen, because in a documentary film and a verite, with like a verite approach, you only get one take at things. You know, something happens once, you can't repeat it. And if you do repeat it, it will feel false. And so I just tried to train myself on capturing, you know, real moments as they happen. And I just treat actors as people. And I just want, and my main instruction to them is to surprise me and to fail. I want them to get to a place where they can absolutely embarrass themselves and fail, because if they do, then they'll do their greatest work. You know, Pines was a much larger canvas than Blue Valentine. Blue Valentine was basically 2 actors under a microscope. And it was working with Ryan and Michelle was one of the great privileges of my life on that movie. But on this movie, I had about 60 actors, and I wanted to maintain that intimacy with each one of them. So I just spent a lot of time with every actor until we each, I don't talk to actors together. We never sit around a table and do a reading. We never all talk about it. I deal in private with every actor and kind of send them into the world. And they go into the world and they live, and I'm just asking them to make it alive. And what I really want is that moment where life collides with fiction, you know, and where mistakes happen, where they interrupt each other, where they step on each other's lines, where they crash, where they, you know, and where it's alive. I'd like the films to be alive, you know. His character was, we were talking a lot about, you know, those guys that those girl groups used to sing about, like the Shangri-Las, you know, where they used to talk about these guys that, you know, only they could understand, these guys that were they looked so tough on the outside, they scared parents, and no one got them but that girl, because they knew that inside that guy they were wounded, and, you know, they're the only, you know, the girl was the only one that understood that guy. We wanted to make a guy like that had this physical presence on the outside, who was very dangerous but deeply, deeply wounded inside. And so we created this facade, you know, and Ryan, you know, really created this look, this image of this guy. All, you know, to the point where, you know, he had, the first day we were shooting, the morning we were shooting, he had this face tattoo that he had put on. And the morning before we took the first shot, Ryan took me aside and said, I think we have to lose the tattoo. I think it's too much. The face tattoo is too much. You know, I think we should take it off. And I said, well, that's what happens when you get a face tattoo. You want to take it off, but you can't. And, you know, you're stuck with it now. So that was, you know, that's an example of how we try to do things, you know, like decisions are made and we live with them, even if the person's regretting them, because that regret Ryan felt for wearing the face tattoo played into the shame that this character feels, you know. I've been talking with Ryan about the movie for so many years, for like 5 years, and we were always thinking, who's going to play Romina, and he suggested that I look at Ava because, you know, he thought that she was a great actor, and yeah, and she came, so I said, okay. I had met her a few times, and she came to an audition and she came with like a ratty T-shirt on, like old 1990s jeans. Yeah, like no makeup. She was trying her hardest to look like a regular person, but she still looked beautiful and glamorous. But it meant so much to me that she did it that I told her, you don't have to audition, just take me on a ride. So she took me around in her car in Los Angeles, showed me all the houses she grew up in, schools she went, and I just found that there was a real deep person in there, you know, and yeah, it was exciting. I love it when actors will do that, you know.